it's getting cold again. Wasn't that cold yesterday? But it's cold, but not frostbitey cold. It's getting cold again now though. So, did my usual routine this morning. What do? I get up at 5:30, eat something, drink a couple coffees, and then I gotta drive for about 40 minutes in my pickup. And I just stash my quad in the bush so I don't have to load it, unload it every day. Nobody is around where I'm hunting at all, which is good. And then I gotta take about a 40-minute quad beating down an old cut line into this big mature stand of timber. And then I've been setting up in there. I'll slowly hike into there and I'll sit down and wait, see what happens. And then I'll walk over and check some trail cameras that I leave. And then I'll go into the forest. And then I'll use about a couple hours to explore a new area and learn the area. Because a lot of people, you can know how to hunt species of game animals, but 90% of your success is knowing how to hunt the area you're in. And that is by locating where all the trails are, where all the preferred areas are, where they go for safety, where they go to rut, on and on and on. And I basically nailed it for the elk, holy cow, and the whitetail. I found the mother load of elk. I've probably seen about 15 different bull elk so far, one XXL size, which is pretty exciting. So I'll be setting up for them next September. Anyway, in the meantime, before that battery dies, I'm gonna get some more emails out. And I think I'm about I don't know, about a mile away from where I want to hunt until dark. So I can talk a little louder in case you're not hearing these things too well. I'm not hunting anywhere near here where I am right now. So let's see what we got. Funny, not funny, but a bit of a note. I was sitting on my quad in the pitch black this morning, just getting my pack ready to get on, and Dave Politis starts texting me. Said that a bunch of people got a hold of him and said I was stranded in the middle of nowhere. Asked me if I was okay. I guess that's kind of cool, but it's funny how the internet works, isn't it? What am I doing? I'm gonna use my mittens so my fingers don't freeze off. And I found a brand new pair of frickin' readers in my truck. Kinda handy. Now, lots of photographs are coming in. It kinda sucks because I'm here. It's tough to share them. All right, what do we got here? Besides frozen frickin' fingers. The pocket warmers inside these mittens too. All right. So last year I had a guy watch my dogs while I was working on a ranch. He ended up killing both of them. Oh, that's unfortunate. Court's coming up in February. Anyway, I was gonna go visit my parents' graves high up in the Continental Divide south of Fairplay, Colorado with my two dogs in June of 2020. While hiking up to the mountain lake where the site is, the dogs stopped very quickly. I looked around to see if I could see something. I did see a big black figure walking in the trees. My thought was it was probably a moose, for they're in the area. My dogs don't usually bark or growl at things unless something poses a danger to them or myself. I didn't think nothing of it and just finished walking to the lake. The next month is when I was going at the ranch. During that time, there's incidences that were happening at my house and the cops were called. One cop called and asked how my dogs were, and he said there was no dogs in the vicinity. I looked around and found my dogs were brutally murdered. So after all was said and done, I did get the ashes back of my dogs in September. I made their headstone, he took their ashes as well as a headstone all the way up to the lake to be with my parents and friends and family that I've passed and yours before. As I was hiking back up the trail, I saw this big black figure again. This time, I did know what it was. It stood on the edge of the open meadow next to the trees and willows. I stopped and looked at it, and being of the Ogallala nation, I offered tobacco and prayer for this being. I said in my previous emails to you, this now makes my fourth encounter. It stood approximately 9 feet tall. When it turned this time, I knew it was this being. For a head, broad shoulders, hair, it was approximately 8 to 9 inches long coming off his body, jet black. I have no interest to go looking for these beings. I knew what it was. They knew what I was. After offering the tobacco and prayer, it stood there and looked at me, and it bowed. I walked into the shadows and walked into the shadows of the trees. I continued on my journey to do what I had to do. After all said and done, I was walking back down the mountain, and in the middle of the trail was 3 flowers that were picked and laying there. I placed a backhoe on the ground at the base of the flowers and took the flowers with me. Okay, that's got to be a typo. I placed a backhoe on the ground at the base of the flowers and took the flowers with me. Okay, oh, you must have, I'll bet that was supposed to be tobacco on the ground. This is the way I was taught by the elders, is before you pick anything up, you offer the tobacco, for it was laid there for you as a gift. I just figured I would share the story to add to your collection. Sincerely, Mota Chanta. That's Heart of a Bear. There's another addition email on here. Sorry I sent that email a little too soon without proofreading. The distance from the being to myself was approximately 200 yards. I was able to see it. This being was from about chest height and up. Everything below was covered by the willow. Wow. And then you left a picture of the memorial. See if you guys want to see it. Oh, that stupid glare, huh? There we go. Get rid of that glare. There's the memorial up in the mountains. Lots of some unfortunate news about your dogs. And quite the experience. Pretty cool that you gave her respect that way and you got it back, thankfully. That's a good ending. And thanks for sending that in, man. Keep sending it in. Keep sending in the knowledge when you can, all right? Sorry, guys, I'm starting to get a little cold. I gotta mark these as red. Here comes the sun. Perfect. Perfect glare time, right? All right. It was the summer '76. My friend Chuck had a 66 Chevy Biscayne, and he stopped by to pick me up. Then he went and picked up 2 more friends, Larry and Chris. We went to the party store and bought a case of beer and then headed out of town to cruise the country roads and sip on some cold ones. We turned down a gravel road and stopped and opened a case of beer. It was dark by now, and the road had a cornfield on the right side of the road and a swamp on the left. I was sitting sideways in the passenger side of the front seat, talking to Chris and Larry in the back seat, when all of a sudden, something came out of the cornfield and went by the back of the car, slapping the trunk hood as it went by. The force of the slap made the car rear shocks bottom out. I was looking out the back window and the side windows and got a good look at what went by. It was a full moon that night, and this thing was very tall, maybe 10 to 12 feet. It was not super wide, stocky like some of the Bigfoots, but muscular. My friends were freaking out. They said, "What the F was that?" I said it was a big, tall thing. They said, "Yeah, did you see it?" I said, "Yes, I did." Everyone yelled, "Let's get the hell out of here." And Chuck fired up the Chevy and spun gravel in all 3 gears. It was summer and we had the windows down. You could hear it run into the swamp, making splashing sounds. We never talked about it, afraid it would get out. We would be laughing stock of the little town. This little town. Wow, that's crazy, man. Obviously that thing was just messing with you guys. Probably still laughing about it and telling the same story itself, right? But at least that's all most of them do for kicks, instead of just popping people's heads off for kicks. To go and tell the friends about after, maybe, who knows, I don't know. That'd scare the shit out of anybody. It's weird. Weird how they mess with human beings. I don't get it. Well, I somewhat am getting it. That's for another time. What else? Here's another one. Mark this as red before I forget, because everybody wants to kill me if they hear a story twice. Dear Steve, sorry for such a short email. I was just wanting to share my story I was fishing on the river and the rocks were pelting me. And what I saw when the trees 10 feet up parted, I saw two very large hands. They were dark brown and a face that looked like a very large black man with large dark eyes and a beard. My grandfather used to tell me of the old man of the river. This was in 1996 when it happened. I've always felt their presence whenever I'm in the woods. And in this place, the junction of the Smoky Hills and the Republican rivers from the Kansas River, I've had fishing poles and fish go missing. When I walk to my car to retrieve or put items away, I've been spoken to in a Native American tongue and chased out. On one night I was setting limb lines on the uninhabited side of Milford Lake, and it was 2:30 a.m. and my dad's first cousin was behind me and he started running and he yelled at me to run. And I looked back and I saw a 12 to 14 foot brownish giant running about 20 feet to the left of him. What I saw was very wide, 8-inch hair longer on the head and arms, as it looked as if it weighs 1,200 pounds or more. It just ran across the field, crossed over a 5-wired fence and into the bush and followed us back to the truck. We were terrified out of our minds that night. I now live in Texas and have more to share. Well, you got a note for me. All right, man. I got that message from you. Thank you for that. Thank you for that. Thank you for the kind words of encouragement. And what a shit-eating thing to have follow you back to the truck or the car in the dark. It's funny, you know, obviously I think about these things every time I'm in the woods. There's no way you don't after you've seen them, after you know they're there. I haven't had any feeling of any pressure here at all. Like nothing. I'm almost half asleep on the quad in the dark each morning and each night on the way out. But I did notice this morning, you know, I started thinking about some of these experiences, and then you start getting, you know, get creeped out behind you because it's all pitch black behind you and you're vulnerable on the quad. And I was thinking back to that share with some people emailed in. The guy was doubling his buddy on the quad and something flipped the back of it up and they did a forward endo and it went flying off the damn thing. Remember that one? And I started thinking about that one this morning in the dark, and then you start looking over your shoulder and then you gotta sort of go, all right, quit it, don't be an idiot, think about big huge bucks. And then you just start thinking about other things and stop yourself from spooking yourself out, right? But other than that, no, I haven't had any feelings of pressure where I am currently, although I do know of experiences basically in every direction of the compass within an hour's drive of me, or half an hour. A friend of mine who owns a ranch just down the road, they haven't had any experiences in their ranch, but they are avid keen channel watchers and knowledge gainers, and I'm quite certain I informed them of a handful of people I know in this community that have had experiences. But they haven't had any experiences, but they do not scoff or laugh at the topic. North Georgia encounter. Steve, my wife, who's addicted to your channel, works at a healthcare facility in rural northeast Georgia. Bracket deliverance country bracket. I'm pretty sure every state and every province has the deliverance flair in some places, right? It's unfair how so many southern states get the kick in the nuts for that sort of thing. She works with a nurse who lives with her younger daughter in an isolated cabin nearby. One day, the nurse told her of a strange encounter that morning. Just before dawn, the nurse's daughter went out to the car to be driven to school. As the nurse closed up the cabin, she heard a blood-curdling scream. She ran out to find her daughter, terrified. Her daughter described a large creature that was standing upright like a man, but it had blood-red eyes and arms that were too long for its body. The nurse didn't see anything, calmed her daughter, and went on to work after dropping her daughter off at school. When my wife saw the nurse a couple days later, she learned that when they got home that night, the cabin had been cleaned out, mainly food and clothing. She called the sheriff's office. The deputy that responded was completely dismissive of the encounter and ended his investigation with an eye roll, saying he would file a report. You can use my name, Dennis. P.S. Heard you say you had figured some things out and would be sharing soon. Be careful. Yeah. Thanks, man. Thank you very much. Yeah, for me, sharing and being careful, I'm not scared of anybody. That's not a ego thing. It's not a tough guy thing. I think if that's a state of mind, if I could just somehow spread to everybody how better off we would be if everybody quit being scared. Especially of the pricks that have managed to get themselves into the positions they're in to absolutely turn our lives upside down. That's another topic for another time. I won't get going. It's time for them to be careful. All right, what else? First time, I think. I was a guest riverboat hunting with experienced hunters on the Peace River, on an island in that river downstream from Taylor, BC. That way. This is an old-time plywood 20-foot home-built to river specs powered by an ancient 20-horse Hiawatha prop engine. The motor had a bronze prop, perfect for river use. 2 of the 4 people I was hunting with were in pursuit of black bear that ran off up a steep river bank. Oddly, the guy running the 30-30 missed completely. He was a crack shot. I was hiking this well-used game trail alone on this large island about 800 yards up this trail, where the trail became obstructed by deadfall. In a very brushy area, I heard stomping. I could not get a visual despite every attempt. I got this intense wave of fear. I had only a Winchester 94 22M with 40 grain 11 bullets in the tube magazine, a chambered one. I got this message like a thought because I could not hear it. Leave. I was hoping to get a grouse. I thought this fear was related to being undergunned. I thought maybe there was an elk or moose in that bush, concealed so perfectly. I could not make sense of what was going on. I was a very experienced hunter, 22 years old in 1984. I had this feeling that there was a female or a woman in that bush. Branches started snapping, one, another, pause, then another. What snaps branches in the bush? Not like when a branch is stepped on, a sharp, loud snap. Like a dry season stick of 2 inches is being broken abruptly. Every time I stepped in close to see what this animal was, more snaps. Show yourself, I speak loudly. No, I am afraid you will kill me, is the reply. I think, I'm hunting only for meat for food. If you attack me, I'll kill you. More branches are snapped, one, another, then another. I will not come out. Then I start feeling dizzy, a buzz sound in my abdomen. I feel like I need to vomit. I'm baffled. None of this makes sense to me. I'm having a non-verbal conversation with something in the bush. I decide I will leave and rejoin my hunting companions. I told them that there was a moose or an elk in the thick bush. I told them I could not get a good look at it, and so I left, having only a .22 Magnum with me. I showed my friend where there were elk tracks there in the soft sand on the dry trail. We dismissed it as an elk in the brush. Whatever was there had left, or was giving us the silent treatment. Now, as much more experienced hunter, I know of no animal that can snap branches in time sequence or communicate non-verbally. My longtime hunting buddy who was there with me and his father and brother-in-law, they inspired my zeal for hunting. Do you know of such animal? Phil Hukin, Prince George, BC, Canada. Phil, thanks for that, man. You know what? That island is not too far away from where I made that video and showed all you guys where all those trees were snapped off. Basically the exact same height. And that's about that way. How far? Okay, I'm facing south right now. I'm facing southwest. So, southeast, that is where you're talking, southeast from me right now. Oh, I could probably drive there in less than an hour on the paved road. And that is basically where that happened on that island. It would be north of me by about, I don't know, 5 kilometers, maybe even 10, 5 or 10. I have to look at the map. I think you said below Taylor or above Taylor. If it was above Taylor, I was probably about 8 kilometers away from there where all those branches were broken, where my trail camera was spun, and where my friend heard the tree getting blasted, the wood knocking, and I didn't hear a thing. So There's a lot that goes on along the Peace River, all the way in Alberta. I believe there's some kind of Sasquatch convention or something in Grand Prairie, I think I read about a couple years ago. So there's obviously a lot of people in Alberta that know what's up too, right? Williston Lake is that way from me, about, not very far, it's just over the hill. And there is so many sightings around there, it's crazy. I'm surprised I haven't felt any pressure. I think I've done around 300 quad miles in this country around here since last September, total. I haven't felt any pressure or nervousness yet, which is good. I'm not complaining. But anyway, how much time do we got on that sucker? That old phone's battery dies real fast. Let's see if I can squeeze one more in here maybe. And then I'm gonna get going. I got a big buck meeting coming up. All right, what do we got? No need for names. What matters is sharing my experiences. I've had many extraordinary things happen in my life. I do not fear. I know there is a God. I have a sincere desire to learn what is possible. Now, here are my experiences. In 2019, I was in a chalet in Utah overlooking the mountains. Hikers were enjoying the snow while. I kept an eye on one group. They took over an hour to hike up and across a mountain. Later on in the day, I spotted a being about 12 feet tall hike straight up at the center of the mountain. The being was dark beige. Also, it walked up the mountain without stopping. I thought there was no way it was a human because of the size, color, no gear, and how it could walk right up it. The physical conditioning of this being made me know that it was not a human. In 2017, I was camping at Algonquin Park in Ontario. No one was in the area. My friend and I had the lake to ourselves. One day I heard a strange, goofy grunt like the voice was puzzled or confused about something. No animal or person would make that same sound. If you're into pictures, I can get 2 of footprints from a relative and friends. They are the same as many of the others out there. It is clear that the Sasquatch are going out of their way to be known. Thanks for being strong and empowering others to share their stories. It is time we awaken to the blatant reality that we are not alone. I feel deeply it is time we understand the fullness of our divine potential, what it means to be human, to know within our minds and hearts that all consciousness is one. All right, thanks for that. Appreciate that, Nicholas. Yeah, the pictures, the footprints, there's no shortage of them. There's only about 5 gazillion of them, right? As far as what that does for the general public is nothing. It's like a doctor, I said it before, a doctor friend of mine told me flat out. It takes a lot of time and a lot of energy, this topic. If you have no interest in it, you want to look into it. Not many people do, right? Nobody really has much interest in it until they have their first pucker factor experience. Then they're interested, right? Then they want answers. But man, why do our noses run when it gets cold? It's annoying. But anyways, that whacking straight up, I was like a water truck driver for Halliburton when they were working up the Meager main line, head of the Pemberton Valley when I was living there. And I heard through the grapevine that he had seen a very large upright being go power walking across the road and straight up the clear cut in the mountain, stepping over top of huge fir logs. And he said it never skipped a beat, never stopped. Just power marched straight up the side of that mountain. And same thing, he said he knew right away that was no way there was a human being alive that could pull that off, right? But anyway, how about if I give you guys a quick 360 where I am right now? And then I'm going to carry on. So, excuse me. Looking east. Looking south. Looking west. Looking north. There you go. I'll see you guys tomorrow. You got something that people should know, send it in to tellmystory@howtohunt.com or share my story at howtohunt.com, and it'll get got to. All right? Be safe out there.